In this video, we're going to list 5 amazing Amiga games, but there's one issue. I don't know anything about Amigas, but I know someone who does. Hi mate, thank you so much for joining me on this top 5 Amiga games. Now, I don't know anything about Amiga, but you do, because your name is Amiga For Mortals.
Well, for a start, thank you for having me on. And yeah, I guess I know a bit, but the whole purpose of Amiga For Mortals is the fact that when I started getting back into it, I realised that I didn't know as much as maybe I wanted to. So yeah, all right, I know a bit, and that's what I've been streaming, but I'm no expert.
I've heard that you brought 5 bangers to the table.
I have, and some of these, I think you're already going to know some of these. Some of these aren't going to be a surprise to even people that maybe haven't played the Amiga much before.
Yeah.
Some of these are really obvious. Some of them are maybe a little bit more obscure or things that people might not have played before. So the first one is Flashback. You've played Flashback, haven't you? You know that one?
Yeah, it was in my top 20 SNES games of all time, so I played that way back in the day.
I have a nice boxed copy of the Amiga version, and which I picked up very recently actually, and Flashback isn't particularly cheap on the Amiga at the minute, so I had to pay a little bit more than I maybe wanted to.
That is nice.
But I also have it on the Mega Drive as well. It's brilliant. It's one of the best games I've ever played. Flashback, for people who don't know what it is, I think the guy's name is Conrad, and you're sort of fighting your way through various levels, and there's kind of like puzzles that you have to do along the way. It's sort of a platformer, I guess.
Yeah.
You sort of, it's a platformer, but it's quite sort of puzzly in places. You end up having to go backwards and forwards through the level to pick objects up or do certain things. And like, for anyone who's seen me stream, you'll know that I die regularly.
He's dead.
Now, Flashback was one of those where the deaths were high. It was before I actually had a death counter on the stream, so I can't confirm exactly how many it is, but it was a lot.
He's dead.
The second one is Secret of Monkey Island.
Nice.
Now, again, I was really lucky to get myself a boxed copy of this. This, again, holds money for the Amiga at the moment. From my point of view, probably because this was the game that I had back in the day, but for me, this is point and click. This is where point and click started for me. This is the genre-defining game for point and click in my eyes. So you're a wannabe pirate on Melee Island, and you have to do these challenges, these tasks, to try and convince the pirates that you're worthy to become a pirate, and that's sort of where it goes. And it's a proper classic point and click where you have to go and pick up stupid things that are nothing to do with what you need.
So many red herrings. Yeah.
In fact, there is actually a red herring as one of the items that you have to pick up.
So good.
So cannon fodder is
He's
number
dead.
3.
He's dead.
Yeah.
That's all I hear.
So this one, I did have my death counter working by the time I was streaming this.
He's dead. Explain what that game is, because I've played it a bit. Is it just like would you call it a strategy game? Or a shooter?
That's one of the things I think is fascinating about it, and why I think it's such a great game, because it's kind of a shooter game, because you're a soldier and you're going around shooting other soldiers, but there is definitely strategy in it, because you can split up your team, your platoon of soldiers, and you can send different ones in different directions. But the way that you play it is point and click, that you are pointing and clicking to send the soldiers in that way, and then you're holding down the other mouse button to shoot. Now, I can't think of any other shooters or games that have that kind of control system for that kind of game.
If anybody's got any other ideas, throw them down in the comments.
Yeah, and I'd be really interested to play some other games that are like that, because
similar.
To me, that the way that game operates, the way it all works, is really unique. I just can't think of any others that are like it, and I love that about it. The thing that kept me going on that, it's one of those, just one more try.
Yeah.
Because
it's a quick
none
restart.
of the things you do are hard. You can see what it is you've got to try and do. It's just timing and doing it in the right order or approaching it the right way. And so it's got that real just one more try.
You do make me want to play it by talking about it. That does appeal to me.
I love that game so much that I also bought the CD32 version as well. So the next one, I wasn't sure whether to include this one because it wasn't an original Amiga game. But this is Metal Gear. So it was originally an MSX game. Back in the day, it had some ports to other systems. So I know it was ported to the NES, the NES. But I've heard really bad things about the NES version compared to the original MSX version. Apparently the port from the MSX version to the NES version wasn't done particularly well. It was one of those typical back in the day, let's just get it onto another system kind of ports.
Yeah.
But so fairly recently, in the last couple of years, a guy who's really big in the Amiga scene, DJ Hoffman, he has done loads of... he does music on the Amiga. Really, really well known in the scene. He did a port. It's not an official port, it's a fan port, but he has done it. He's really done it justice. He tore the game right down. He had some of the assets like cleaned up because like music and sound is his thing. He's put in new sound effects and redone a load of the music for it. So like some of the sound effects that he uses on there, he's actually taken some of the sound effects that you would recognize from the PS1 Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
And so some of those are in there as well. Now, again, it wasn't an Amiga game back in the day, so I never played it. I didn't have an MSX back in the day, so I never played it on that. So my first introduction to the Metal Gear series was Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, which I'm sure is probably most people watching this. Yeah. It's probably the same for them. Now, playing this, it straight away felt obvious that this was part of the series.
Yeah.
It is graphically nothing like the PS1 game. It's obviously earlier than that. But the way that you play it, the way that you hide round corners, you can even hide in a cardboard box. You can do
it was all there right from the start.
It was.
Yeah.
Going and collecting the items, having the key cards for doors, the putting the goggles on to see laser beams.
Isn't there a cigarette bit in it as well? Because I've never played it, but I've seen parts. Yeah,
there's the cigarette thing in there as well. All of those things that you had in Metal Gear Solid was there back when they had Metal Gear. Now, I feel personally, I guess maybe it's just because I didn't know about it and it wasn't on that system, but I feel the fact that because it was on the MSX, which certainly over here I think was a much lesser known system than lots of the others, I feel like this original Metal Gear really got overlooked and not many people have probably played it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why it had to be on this list, because it's a fairly new game to the Amiga, but it's brilliant. The final one is Pushover. Now, I don't know how many people are even going to know of this one, because to me it always felt like it was a bit, I don't know, a bit under the radar.
I'm not massively into puzzle games. I like the odd one. Okay. I know this is a puzzle game, and all I know of Pushover is that it's got dominoes in it, and it's something to do with quavers. Because of the Colin the Quaver, icon guy. It was back in that.
It was back in that era where it was acceptable to completely push advertising to kids in their house through video games.
In a video game, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can get that now.
And the weird thing is, it's got nothing to do with quavers.
No.
They've clearly had a game, and they've gone, right, how can we get quavers into this game? And the opening shot, the opening scene when you start it up is Colin drops his quavers down an anthill.
It's so just brute forced in, isn't it?
Quavers.
That's all the motivation you need for crisps when you're a kid.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it is a really basic domino game. There's a load of dominoes lined up, and you're a little ant the same height as the dominoes, and you walk around in between them, and you can pick them up and move them around. And there's one domino that has to fall last. So they've all got to fall, but one of them has to be the last to fall.
Okay.
One particular colour.
And is that the one that, when you do that, an exit appears?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So once that last one falls, you go for an exit and you then go to the next level.
Right.
It gets progressively more difficult, where you then have different dominoes with different patterns on them that do different things. So one of them will float up in the air, and one of them will bounce, and one of them explodes, and it does all different things. And you have to work out, where do you put those different special dominoes so that they all fall, but this one particular one falls last. The idea behind it is really simple, but the further you go with it, the more you have to really think about it. And there's loads of trial and error in it, because it's not until you start seeing them fall that you realise, I've made a mistake there. That's where I need to focus my effort on to try and work that out.
Well, you don't just play Amiga games. This is a bit of a segue, isn't it? You don't just play Amiga games. You also create things to do with the Amiga and other consoles and everything, don't you? If you want to jump on that.
Yeah, so I guess, but by the time this video goes out, right now I'm nearly a week into the Kickstarter that I'm doing. So I have been building joysticks for a while now. Two years I've been building these joysticks, and they've been sort of pretty well received by people in the retro community. There's several streamers have got them and been using them and love them. And I've been hand building them myself on that bench behind me. And it's got to the point where I just can't continue to do that. So if I'm going to continue to offer them to the community, I need to try and upscale that. So I have got a manufacturer on board. I've gone through all my pricing and worked everything out. And I'm now running a Kickstarter to try and raise enough money to allow me to get them produced in batches by a proper manufacturer. So I don't have to sit here and build 100 of them.
You could try, but that'd be quite funny.
Yeah. So I've been amazed. I'm so grateful to the community so far, because, like I say, it's going to run for 30 days. At the time of recording right now, it's got 24 days left to go. It finishes on the 7th of July. And I've currently got 71 backers, and I've got £10,159 of my £25,000.
Wow, nearly half. That's
amazing.
It's
and I'm genuinely blown away by the support that I've had. I knew that people that had seen them liked them, and that was lovely to hear that.
Yeah.
But for people to actually put their money where their mouth is and back it in the way that they have so far has just been incredible. I've still got a long way to go, but yeah, so far.
Fingers. Hopefully, when this goes out, which will be, next week, next Wednesday, hopefully we'll be close to that goal. Well over halfway. Amiga, thank you so much for joining me on this. This has been a brilliant chat. We went over 5 games and we talked about a massive passion that we all hope is going to do really well.
Thank you very much for having me on, mate.
And everyone, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe and all that stuff. I'll see you next time in another video. Do a wave. Do you want to do a wave?
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
He's dead.
Okay, that went well.